expressions with radicals, it is important that we always simplify the radical first before we move on to simplifying the rest of the problem. However, it's important that we remember that before we reduce with fractions, we must always factor first. And after the expression is factored, we can divide out common factors. Given the example, we've got the square root of 175. We're going to simplify that radical first by finding the prime factorization of 175. It ends in a 5, so we know it's divisible by 5, 35 times, which is also divisible by 5, 7 times. Now the expression is 15 plus the square root of 5 squared times 7 all over 10. Continuing to simplify the radical, we can pull the 5 squared out as just a 5 to the first when we divide the exponent by the index. We now have 15 plus 5 times the square root of 7 over 10. Now we can focus on simplifying the fraction. Before we can reduce the fraction, we must first factor the numerator. The numerator has a common factor of 5, leaving behind 3 plus the square root of 7 over 10. And now we are allowed to reduce the fraction by dividing out common factors. 5 and 10 are both divisible by 5, leaving a 2 behind in the denominator. For my final answer, we have 3 plus the square root of 7 over 2. Let's take a look at simplifying another expression that has a radical and a fraction. In this problem, we're going to always start by simplifying the radical first. Finding the prime factorization of 48, divisible by 2 24 times, 2 12 times, 2 6 times, 2 3 times, and 3 once. We end up with 8 minus the square root of 2 to the 4th times 3 all over 6. We can divide the exponent on the 2 to the 4th by the index of 2 to find out how many of this number come out. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so we pull out 2 squared. We now have 8 minus 2 squared, which is 4, square root of 3 over 6. Now that the radical is simplified, we're ready to go back and try and simplify the fraction. Before we can simplify the fraction, we must factor first. We are not allowed to simply divide out the 8 with the 6 and divide out a factor of 2 because of the subtraction in the problem. So we must factor it, factoring out the common factor of 4, leaving behind 2 minus the square root of 3 over 6. And now that it's factored 4 times the parentheses, we can divide out of the 4 and the 6 a 2, leaving behind 2 and 3. We're left with 2 times 2 minus the square root of 3 over 3. This will work as our final solution. However, if you wish, you can distribute the 2 through to get 4 minus 2 root 3 over 3, and this answer will work as well. When simplifying these fractions and radicals, we'll always simplify the radical first, and before reducing the fraction, we must remember to factor first, so we can divide out factors.